In this episode, I want to cover the general aspects of laning and how you want to approach the lane under different circumstances. In a replay I'm about to show you, we're playing from behind or we're weaker. So in order to achieve farm and in order to survive the lane, I know I need to pull the wave, I need to get lane control, and I want the creeps to work in a certain way. If you have a big creep advantage, you have a lot of creeps running at the enemy, that means that they have creeps they need to deal with and farm, and it's very hard for them to just fight you. And vice versa, if they have a lot of creeps that's running at you, it's really hard for you to fight them because you need to farm. All the creeps are just gonna go into your tower and you lose all the experience, or they're gonna hit you and you're gonna take a lot more damage than the enemy. But that also means that in both cases, if there's a lot of creeps, one side is farming and the other one can play aggressive. But if you're the one that wants to farm, that means that it's always good for you to have a lot of creeps swinging the wave, swinging the lane in either direction, because you get to farm a lot if they have a lot of creeps on you. If it's pushing into your tower, you can just farm safely under the tower. There's not really that many scenarios where they can zone you completely away from the tower. And if the lane is pushing really hard on them, that means that you also have free space to farm and do more things. So I know that we're playing from behind, and I know that we're weaker than enemy. That means I want the lane to swing a lot back and forth, and not just to stay outside their tower. For me, as playing offlane, the lane just sitting here is the worst position for me, because if I want to play aggressive, it's really hard. The carry is close to their tower, and if I want to play defensive, it's really hard because they can always go on me because I'm really far away from the tower. So the only scenario when I want the lane to be here is if I know that we're gonna dive the enemy under the tower. Maybe I'm playing Batrider, or I have a mid player that's gonna come in. Then it's really good the lane is here because it's very easy to just push in the wave, maybe even glyph our wave and just destroy them under the tower. I'll show you how and why we do what we do in this lane in order to survive. First of all, I start with boots because I know I'm gonna be pulling waves a lot. I know that at 2v2 I'm not gonna straight up fight these heroes, so I just wanna drag waves in order to get farm and just survive the lane. Now, I think there's 3 different approaches to when you pull waves. One of them is when you want to get lane control to fight the enemy. But I'll show you an example of when we want to get lane control only to farm. And then I'll show you one example of when your support is basically going to leave you alone, which happens in this game. So the most important thing when you want to pull the wave is that you first push in this first wave. Because if this first wave is completely dead, that means their carry has to farm your wave in the tower. And that means that he cannot help out with his support, trying to zone you from pulling. So the first thing I do as Doom in this scenario, I run and eat the range creep. It's also the creep that gives most golden experience. So if you can get down out of the way, it's less gold that you lose by missing this wave. So I know I'm not even going to be able to contest this wave in this scenario because I'm completely 1v2, but because I have boots, and this guy also buys boots because he wants to zone me, so good thing I bought boots, I was running pull this wave. And in this scenario, it's different for Radiant or Dire. But there's 2 things you want to be doing. One, you want to think about, do I want to pull the wave to outside tower? Do I want to pull it into tower? And I want to block one of these camps when I run with the wave. And which one? In this scenario, I want to block the small camp, because I know that if I keep the hard camp open and my Nyx is here, he can then help me later and pull the hard camp. But in some scenarios, if I'm 1v2, I would rather block the hard camp because it's easier for the enemy to pull the hard camp and it kills more of my creeps than the small camp would. Simply put, the hard camp is closer to the carry, so it's easier for him to help out with fighting you, whereas the small camp, you're usually 1v1ing the enemy support. Now, in this case though, the Nyx did come and help me, so we could manage to block both camps, which means that they can't pull at all. I dragged the wave outside the tower, because Nyx is telling me that he's going to pull the next wave. So by doing this, I get to farm 1v1 against the Sand King outside my tower, and as soon as the Arc Warden comes, it's very easy for me to just pull it into tower and farm very safely. Really hard for them to stop me from farming or diving me here, because they would have to dive the tower obviously. Now the Nyx is doing a thing where I think this is harder on Dire, but very good to do on Radiant. When you pull it around and you connect it to your wave. That means that the wave that's coming from our tower now basically, or our base, is gonna kill this wave. Both these waves are gonna die. And if you think about it, both these waves are gonna die, but now at least I'm 1v1 in their carry, which is still a hard matchup for me, but it's better than 2v1. But it means that this wave that's coming right now has no wave that it's going to fight against. It's just going to walk all the way into my tower and I get to farm for free, which means that the Nyx can then rotate out and do whatever he wants. If you want to pull to play aggressive, however, I recommend that you pull the lane always to just outside your tower, and then you can pull it into your tower and push it out. because if you start pulling like between the towers and around the towers, you're always going to kill your own wave. And by killing your own wave, you have a lot more enemy creeps running at you, and it's really hard to play aggressive. So by doing this, it's like a way to farm out more. So in this lane, because we only want to farm, now I get like a free wave that's just going to run into my tower, and I can just farm this for free, and then Nyx can like camp runes, stack camps, he can go mid, he can stay bottom, he can do whatever he wants. I'm really happy. Now I have a really big wave that's pushing out, and because we have this big wave, even though they're stronger than us, they can't like fight us, because all these creeps are just going to run over them. So I also use my spell to push out the lane, and we get like an even bigger wave pushing on them. And now Orc Warden is completely stuck under the tower. Like, he has to farm these creeps. There's no way he can help his tanking, which means that we can then pull the hard camp, which means that this wave is going to die to the hard camp, which means that the wave that's coming here is going to walk straight into my tower, and I can farm that one for free as well. In some scenarios, regarding this hard camp, if you're a lot weaker than the enemy, I would always suggest trying to pull your wave to the hard camp, because then their wave is just going to walk into your tower and you can farm. However, if you're a lot stronger than the enemy, it can still be good to do this, but instead you want to grab this wave and pull it also to the hard camp, and then you can farm the hard camp with like both sides creeps and zone the enemy. I think you need to be very confident in what you're doing then, because it can be kind of risky, because if you die, like the enemy is going to get all the hard camp creeps and both sides creeps. But in general, you just view it as like, if we're weaker, you pull your wave, and if you're a lot stronger, you can pull the enemy wave and your wave together. In this replay, I want to talk to you how you want to approach the lane when you know you want to fight the enemy, but they have like 2 ranged heroes, so I know that we need to pull to get lane control, and I'm going to focus a lot on that. When I'm playing Sanking, it's really important for me that the lane is like not just outside their tower, because I'm like a melee hero. It's very easy for them to hit me. And I have a slow built in on my passive, so if I can hit people, they're gonna like be slowed. It's a lot nicer for me if the lane is like up here. We can play aggressive. I can maybe even get like 2 stuns in. If the lane is over here, like if I stun the enemy, I'm gonna stun into the tower and just die right away. It's like really feels bad. So there's like 2 ways to do this. Either you focus on pulling the hard camp, which I think it's really good if you're a lot stronger than the enemy. I think in this lane, however, I would say that they're not like stronger than us necessarily, but they're definitely better at harassing and like trading than we are. So it's very hard to play around this area. It's a lot better if the lane is up here and we can go on them. Like, we need to play to kill all the time, so we don't really want to be like trading in the jungle and just auto-attacking back and forth. Obviously, I'm not a ranged hero, so I can't really fight back. So because of this, I know that we want to push in this first wave, and we want to drag the second wave and pull it outside our tower. I would say almost in every game, if you can do this, it's never going to be bad. Sometimes it's not exactly what you want to be doing, but it's like 99% of the time, at least it's not bad. So I would recommend that you like practice pushing in the first wave and then dragging the second wave to outside your tower. On Radiant, you have an easier option of just dragging it to between the towers and denying your wave as well, but I'll just show it on die right now, that 99% of the time you pull it outside here. So I push in the wave together with my Willow. We both use our spells, at least he uses spell. Then he drags the creeps, and he just takes it over here. And what happens right now is that my Venge, enemy Venge, tries to connect the hard camp to this wave. But because I know that the Drow cannot help out, I'm just running for the Venge, and we fight him 2v1. And I think we even should end up killing him here. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so the Venge made a mistake, but at the same time, this is like a still pretty high like rank immoral game. We have 2 like rank 60-30 players, so it's not like there's some total noobs. If you pressure the enemy, it's way easier for them to make mistakes. So what happens now is, because of this pull and we end up killing Venge, they have like a big wave that's running at us. So now the lane control is a lot further up, and if you compare the lane to here versus down here, the Drow is like a lot more out of position. If I were to stun him and we root him right now, we can like keep chasing him and hitting him, versus if I do it down here, it's next to his tower. Another thing to think about is the tower gives armor and also 1 HP regen in like the big range around it. So you never really want to be hitting people that's under the tower, because they're a lot tankier than they usually are. The Venge tries to pull the wave because he knows that he wants to get the lane back again, so they can farm like safely. But because I know that the Venge is like not playing aggressive, he's probably pulling. I'm going to try and go for the Drow here. As soon as I get an opportunity, I think I want to like stun the Drow and pressure him. I even start pinging him so my support knows. A good way to like communicate what you want to do, even if you're not talking. If you like ping the enemy, it's like the simplest like attention seeker. I'm just like ding, 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 ding. My Dark Wheeler starts looking over. He understands I want to go on this guy, so he's like ready. He's not looking at some other lane. He's not buying items. He's like understanding like, okay, it's go time. So because the lane is like further up, we can keep hitting him and chasing him. These auto attacks I would never get off if the lane was down here. And even though it's not dying, it's like a lot of regen and pressure burn. And another thing as well is because the lane is pushing in, my Willow knows like I want to get the lane back. I will push in the lane. They can't really fight me back, and he will pull the hard camp. And in this scenario, comparing it to before, we're like level 3 and level 2. The Venge is like way further back. They're not going to be able to stop us from pulling the hard camp, so we have like control of this area. So when you have control of this area, it's always better to just pull the hard camp and try to deny your creeps, forcing them to fight you, versus pulling the wave. In case they were like really strong and they had control of this, instead of pulling hard camp, I would probably just pull the wave and we repeat the same thing that we just did. So now the Jawa is really sad because he has no wave that's outside his tower that's easy to farm. Instead he needs to fight up here. What's happening in this scenario is that when you pull the hard camp, the enemy wave will walk into your tower. And here you kind of got to make a decision. I would say 90% of the time it's better to just take this farm and like be happy, but then you also end up leaving some of this farm for the enemy. Because I'm sanking, I like splash the creeps, it's really easy to farm the hard camp. So because the Jawa is like greedy, instead of me going for the wave in the tower, in this case we stun and kill the Venge. And while this farm is being missed, like net worth wise, it's maybe not like a complete win, but it's really good that the Venge uses his TP and dies. So I know that next time we kill the Venge, he's not going to be able to come back to the lane. And the same thing for Zhao, like if we kill the Zhao and he would die again, then he's gone from the lane for like 1 minute, so they need to play even safer. I decided to just walk back to base. It's another thing to think about when you kill the enemy support. That means that your position 4 can 1v1 the carry. Like most of the time, it's okay to walk back to base. I would say that the only time you want to walk back to base is like when you're low HP and mana and the support is dead. If the enemy support was still alive and my Willow would be like getting zoned, like in this scenario, now the Venge is back, is getting zoned 2v1, I would almost rather just like go and die to a tower or die to creeps instead of spending all that time walking back to base. I can show you here as well that it's not really that the lane is in control, but because the Jawa is playing so far up and being greedy for this kill, we can kill him because the lane is up here and not like outside their tower. To summarize, there's a few things you want to think about when you approach the lane. When it comes to lane control, I would say it's always better to have it close to your tower than to the enemy tower. Unless the only scenario when it's better to be at their tower, I think, is if you want to dive the enemy, either if you're playing like Batrider or you have some like mid laner rotating in with maybe like Storm Spirit or something. It's a lot easier for them to come here and gank, instead of if the lane is out here and they TP in, they see it and they can respond with their heroes. If the lane is outside your tower, you have a lot more space to play around, you have more safety, they have a lot more like room until they get to safety. It's like a really good goal to have. The problem is how to achieve that, right? So if you want to get it outside your tower and you can't manage to get it that way, you just pull the wave from here, drag it to outside your tower, and everything is nice. If you can't do that because the supports are like zoning you, you can pull the hard camp over here and connect your wave, and then the enemy wave will walk into your tower, and then you can like take it from there. I think the worst thing you can do is to just let the lane be static here and never be able to like trade with the enemy. The last thing to think about as well is if you manage to like kill the enemy support, in this case I also die, but they both die, you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want because the enemy carry is going to be busy farming. So you can think to yourself, okay, if the support is like ganking mid or if he's dead or doing something else, you can always pull hard camp, you can pull this wave. Maybe I'm even being greedy, I could pull this wave into the small camp and kill it, like if I'm 1v1. There's like a lot of different scenarios, so you kind of have to think for yourself what's going to be best for your specific situation. If the enemy blocks the camp, usually with a sentry, but sometimes they just run and body block it all the time, there's like two approaches. Either you decide to like go hard and take a lot of control, and you can deward the camp with a sentry. One sentry will always cover it. You like decide to take the fight, but you need to make sure that you're at least equal or not stronger than them, because if you fight for the hard camp and they're stronger than you, you're just gonna end up dying. Another approach that I like to have if the hard camp is blocked is that I know that they also cannot pull their hard camp. So I like to pull their wave, and I like maybe kill their small camp a little bit, and then I get lane control. And instead of my support playing aggressive around the hard camp, I ask him to just block their small camp, and then we can keep lane control outside the tower like all the time until they walk up and we can kill them. Now I'm playing Sanking, so it's harder with Caustic because the lane is naturally going to push. But let's say you're playing a hero like, maybe you're playing a lane like Centaur Rubik. I think it's a very like standard standard lane where he can lift into your stun. If the lane is over here and the Rubik sits here and you're just sitting here, extremely hard for them to walk up. And if their hard camp is blocked, because they blocked it in this scenario, they cannot pull the wave back like the Venge wants to do in this game. And if the small camp is blocked because I killed it or because my Rubik blocked it, they also cannot pull the wave back. So you can use the fact that they block the hard camp to your advantage, that you don't need to play that aggressive, you just need to play the whole lane control, and automatically they're like in a position of danger. A lot of times the lane you play is going to come down to who has lane control. If you always manage to have lane control outside of your tower, even if you're stronger or weaker, it's like a good thing, right? I think you want to try and emphasize that you always want to be farming or fighting or doing something. If the enemy has the lane control over here and you're like sitting in the trees or you're just running around, you're being really sad, you need to like do something about it. And the best way to change how the lane works is to like change the lane control or to like manipulate where the creeps are. If it's hard for you to get lane control because you cannot push the lane in, you should just pull. If you can't drag the wave over here because your support is zoning you, you can tell your position 4 to come fight him together and you fight 2v1 while the carry is farming. Or if the support is playing far back, you can also pull the hard camp. There's a lot of like different ways for you to manipulate the lane, and I think just because you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you can't do anything, instead of like giving up, you should try and think of like a way to solve the lane in a way. And even though it might feel like even if the lane is up here they can fight you, at least if the lane is here, it's like really easy for my Storm to go on them if they fight me. It's very hard for them to dive me in the tower. Even if I die like one time, maybe I can like take the lane with me. Whereas if it's like over here, they can like zone me very easily, and it's a lot harder for us to play aggressive as well. So I guess like lane control I think is the most important thing, and you should always like try and think about where you want the lane to be and how to get there.